Hey, what's up? This is Kevin from Kevin's Barbecue Joints, and this one's fantastic. It's with Pat Martin from Martin's Barbecue Joint, as well as Hugh Babies. These discussions that I've had with Pat, I've had two on the podcast itself, have always been enriching, enlightening. I always learn something from them, and this one's great because he has a new book coming out called Life of Fire. I'll put a link below. It comes out March 15th. You can pre-order it. You can go to your local bookstore and pre-order it as well. But this isn't a collection of recipes. This is a procedure book. This is a manual. I don't want to get too in depth about specifically what it is and how it's broken down because Pat does. And Pat does in the most specific way throughout this interview. It's fantastic. I know for a fact that you're going to want to purchase this book after hearing about this. I got a digital copy, and after just scrolling through it and seeing the beautiful photos themselves and the detailed descriptions, I immediately decided to order it and pre-order it. So I'll be getting that hopefully a couple days after March 15th. But this one's really interesting. It's interesting because he talks about how the book came about, and it's been many years in the works and the process, and how arduous and difficult, how he wanted this to be something different for people and something useful for people, a tool. So sit back, relax, enjoy this. This isn't super long, but Pat is knowledgeable and forthright and blunt, and this is just wonderful. I know you guys are going to enjoy this. I can't thank Pat enough for taking the time again to share his thoughts and share about his book. It's going to be a phenomenal success, and I know it's something that many of you will treasure. If you're enjoying these, please subscribe. That way you don't miss out. I have a website at kevinsbbqjoints.com. But at the end, stay safe, visit your local barbecue joint, and make sure you get Life of Fire. It's going to be an amazing book. Good afternoon, Pat. How are you doing today?
I am doing good. You?
I'm doing well. It's always good to talk to you, and it's always good because, and if you haven't watched the first two interviews that we've had, I can put a link to it. One of them was you were driving with someone sleeping in the car as the sun went down behind you. I think it was an event with you and Sam Jones, and then
Savannah Food and Wine, I believe.
I think so, yeah. And it was just unique and different and cool. But then the second one was during the pandemic. But you're always so straightforward and blunt, but not like mean blunt, but just blunt. And so I was looking forward to catching up with you and talking to you.
Good.
So what's your mindset right now? How are you doing? There was, when we last talked, the downtown location was closed down for a moment because downtown was dead, you said.
Oh yeah, I was dead. We closed down for I mean, close to a year. And it was it's a real wrestling match with, when you have banknotes out there, and going to the bank and just being like, I don't know what to tell you other than here's what we're doing. And and they were all like with everybody else, like banks for the most part were understanding about what we were going through because it was impossible not to try to be empathetic. I think most landlords were, some that weren't. No question, some that weren't, but they kind of had their hands tied too. So but it was I took the road of I didn't ever want the banker to call me. So I called the banker, and I would be
Smart.
advice. I'd be like, I just would call them and check up, be like, here's my financials from last period, even though you didn't ask for them, and here's what we're doing. And I'd have no answers. I need to get open worse than you needed me to pay my note. And so we worked through all that and actually got paid back. And, like they basically put loans into dormancy or hibernation, so to speak, for 6 months, and some cases with some people a year. And I really drove in on counting our pennies and getting down to our operations. And we got that paid back pretty quickly and got back to current. So everything's good. Like I told you earlier, I lost one location of Martin's out of COVID, and lost one of my Hugh Babies, my hamburger concept, out of COVID. But outside of just one each from each concept, that was all we lost. So
that's actually
very, very blessed.
Yeah, very blessed. That's not as bad as it could have been. And at the time when we spoke, it was pretty dire, and it was very questionable as to what the future held. We didn't necessarily couldn't see how it is right now, and it's just, I'm glad I have an opportunity to talk to you. And there's a lot of people that I was so concerned when I was just here in Los Angeles, sequestered, thinking all my friends are having trouble, and I didn't know what to do, and it was yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm glad leads we're at this point. And then, how long have you been working? Because you have a new book, Life of Fire, that's coming out, and it looks just gorgeous. It comes out March 15th. This will come out before March 15th, so people can pre-order it. And I'll put links below to all that. And local bookstores would be great too, if you can go to your local bookstore and you could order. I don't know if people know, you could just go to your bookstore and order it, and they'll bring it, ship it in. How long has this book been in the works? And it's an interesting concept. I want you to kind of describe how you set it up. It's different than most books.
Yeah. So I was fortunate enough to be asked by Clarkson Potter. I wasn't looking for a book deal. Francis Lamb was the editor, and Francis reached out and asked me if I would consider doing a book. And I was like, I mean, he and I were our friends, and we've been friends for a while through the Southern Foodways lines.
His name is so familiar with so many articles. Yeah.
And I was like, man, what the heck do you want? Like, nobody's going to buy my book. Like, why do you want me to do a book? And anyway, he asked me if I'd do it. I was like, yeah. And so the Cliff Notes is we started in 16 late. I think it was actually based on a Merry Christmas text or Happy New Year is one or the other in late 16. So really it was 17. For different reasons, we didn't really start the book until fall of 18. So technically I've been at it for 5 years, but it really was more like 3.5 getting it done, but it was, I had a writer because I knew I didn't have the bandwidth to write a book. And all jokes aside, my ADD is so, I mean, it's crippling. It's the biggest blessing I've ever had, but it still doesn't take away from the fact that it's just a crippling thing. So I figured that I would, find a ghostwriter and let him just talk with me and get everything out of my mind, and he can write the book, and that was it. And that's not how it went down. It was one of the most taxing things, top 5, without question, top 10 hardest things I've ever done in my life professionally.
Yeah.
It was top 5 because what comes so naturally, because in barbecue, this book is not a recipe book. It's a procedure book. It's a manual. I wanted to write a book that was mentorish in nature, where, it's like the whole hog chapter alone, or the whole hog procedure alone, is 33 pages, because I go way down deep rabbit hole on reading coals, and just as if I was there with you. Right. So anyway, going through stuff that's so instinctual to me and telling it to you, for you to put on paper, for somebody over here to read and understand and be able to take those instructions and produce it. I underestimated that as an understatement. Like it got frustrating, not in a bad way. My writer and I were great. He's a great guy, Nick Fischall, extremely talented, gifted writer. But anyway, it took a while. Also, because of the nature of the book, it's not, as I said, it's a procedure book. It's not a recipe book. So I don't start with appetizers and, and a matter of fact, I'll come to that in just a second about what the book is not. But because the book follows basically an arc, so to speak, of the life of, they said life of fire, because that's a sexier thing to say on the book, but really it's the life of coals. And it starts with green young coals, that are just out of the chimney starter, so to speak. They maybe a couple of them still have some pop to them, because they haven't completely burned off. So we started there, and it goes all the way to the end to where in my smokehouse, I have an old school smokehouse, and using my granddad's cure recipe and using very small fire to get 8 and 10 hour burn times and cold smoking country hams and all that. In the middle though is straight barbecue, and it's old school barbecue. It's pit barbecue. There's no smokers in this book. There is no beef in this book. I wanted to be specific to the region that I'm at, that I'm in. I know that everything is crossing boundaries and lines now. The regionality of barbecue is quickly fading in a thing of the past. And the old traditionalist in me thinks that is a shame, but I also think it's great because it opens barbecue up. Whereas people in my neck of the woods only eat pork are now starting to eat brisket. It just opens a guest up to a broader view of barbecue, right? And so, anyway, when we started the conversation of the book, I told Francis exactly what I did not want the book to be, and I did not want it to be the typical Father's Day release, freaking mango habanero, foil wrap baby backs, like just all that, all the
Yeah,
cliche
yeah,
BS stuff. I wanted to really get down into cooking old school barbecue and really learning how to cook with feel. So there's no temperature gauges in this book. I do give you temperatures to keep by, and I do advise you on the front end, but the design of this and the intent of this is to teach the reader as best I can from afar through a book, the old ways of traditional Southern pit barbecue. And if you can learn that, then nothing is intimidating to you. I don't care if you walked up with pick whatever, and you've got a smoker or you've got a Weber grill or you've got to stack some rocks. Doesn't matter. Cooking is all about heat and managing heat
and understanding that,
and how it flows and airflow. And so this book is very arduous. It's a book that if you're a barbecue purist, you're going to go through it a bunch, just like looking at it, reading it. Don't have to always agree with me. I'm not some savant that's got all the right answers. This is just my way of how I was taught from Harold Thomas almost 35 years ago, and how we cook real pit barbecue. The backbone of the book, so to speak, is West Tennessee style whole hog, which is still widely ignored and untouched. A lot of people don't, even writers don't know that that's a thing, and it is. There's only 3 of us left in the state still doing it. When I learned how to do it, there were 6 in one county. And that's a whole nother conversation. Maybe we can have another podcast on the economics of barbecue and why barbecue has died off, because people still view it as our peasant food. And so when barbecue restaurateurs bump their price up 50 cents, the guest base is pissed about it.
Yeah.
But they'll go down and pay $12 for a burger that took you 8 minutes to.
Yeah.
So, start, cook, finish, top, you got to your table and you're like, no problem.
And it's got a big knife through it. And it,
yeah, man, we're over here cooking, with rest and everything involved, whether it's brisket, hogs, or shoulders, even Boston butts, you're cooking stuff for 12 hours plus. In my case, for hogs, up to 24 hours. So, and I got people mad. I'm at $6.99 a sandwich right now. It's in Nashville. And if I were to go to $7.99, I mean, would everybody revolt? No, but there would be.
Yeah, there'd be brushback for sure.
You brushback, you've gotten too big for your bread. I mean, I've gotten it, already. When I opened up at $4 a sandwich. So anyway, the economics of barbecue has really.
I would love to delve deeper into that. And we've touched on it a little bit about the whole hog a couple of times ago, and it was something that I wanted to explore deeper with you, because it is sad, and it's there aren't many left, and there's some people obviously doing whole hog every so often.
No, it's not, but I still applaud the fact that they're doing that, and I hope that everybody still does that, even if they do it once a year.
Yeah, I agree.
Once a month, because it just it does keep that alive. And my opinion,
back in people's mind that it exists.
Yeah, my opinion, whole hog barbecue is. I definitely know and actually respect and can understand a Texan disagreeing with what I'm about to say, but I do believe that whole hog barbecue really is, when you think about American barbecue, going back to the roots of our country, that it's really was cooking hogs. I mean, George Washington wrote about it twice in his diaries. They're in the Library of Congress, going to a whole hog barbecue. So anyway, the backbone of the book is West Tennessee whole hog and a block pit. I go into the fact that I think a block pit, and I do think a block pit is the best. And I hardly ever in my life use the word best, but I think it's the best at the very least. It's my favorite way to cook barbecue, because it's a mortarless pit. It's stacked. It's dry stacked, and the thing about a block pit like that is that it breathes like a set of lungs.
Okay.
So it breathes air in on all sides. right? So you don't have the hot spots that you get, like you get in a smoker. If like, and we all manipulate. Again, it's just managing heat. Okay, so it's not that say an offset smoker on a trailer is not as good as this. What I really should clarify saying is I think this gives you the best opportunity to be successful because you don't have to figure out hot spots and moving stuff around and moving it over to this corner over here because this corner's hot.
It's happened all the time. Yeah.
So we get in deep dive into that. Before that, though, we get into open pit barbecue, which is, about 15, 18 inches off the ground and you're totally exposed to the elements, specifically airflow. And it's the, in a lot of ways from a festive side, it's the easiest thing to do. Like if you're going to have friends over, or it's the funnest, it's the most interactive because it's not in a closed environment. You got to peek and look at it. Like it's right there. Tried not to use grill at all in this book, but the publisher, I had to give up some battles for that because I didn't want people to think anything about this, that this was a grilling book. Again, back to the cliches.
Yeah.
But it basically is a larger grill, so to speak, but it's elevated and you're cooking indirectly, but that's ribs and whole chickens and pigs. I go into between, say 30 and 50 pounds that don't have the collagen in their muscles to barbecue traditionally. So these cook a little hotter. We cook on open pit around 250, 275, whereas whole hogs, we cook at 200. But anyway, it's open pit and then it kind of stairs up into spit barbecue, whole animal. Again, it's either whole animals or whole primals. We get into obviously what I was talking about before, which is just a block pit. And then I even cover cooking a hog on the ground, which that's the big romantic thing whenever you meet somebody who's like, my uncle used to do that. They dig a hole every year, like everybody, like I went to that. But the fact is, it's the most open pit barbecue is the hardest method, I think, to produce a consistent end meal.
Okay.
Hog in the ground is the most dangerous because earth is so efficient that once that hog starts to render, once you have to refire it, if you don't open that lid up the right way, it's going up and you're going to burn it. And you might as well just sit back and pull up a chair and watch it burn up. No saving it. You ain't getting it off. So we go through all the old ways of pit barbecue, so to speak. And it's kind of shouldered between that. It's shouldered on. I took the way we ate growing up. I was born in Memphis and both our families, both sides are from the same town in Mississippi, Corinth, Mississippi. When I was little, we moved up to Connecticut because my dad took a job as a institutional bond trader. And so he had a Wall Street job. And then we come home in the summers in Mississippi. Then my granddad died. He farmed. So when he died, we moved back. It's all the stuff that we ate growing up, because there wasn't Southern food up north, so like butter beans and purple whole peas and all that. But a lot of the stuff, like when you get into okra and all that was fried, skillet fried. And so I love skillet fried okra. But years ago, I started what would this be like? I mean, like 20 years, what would this be like grilled? What would this be like charred? And so I took all those favorites I had as a kid and put them over live fire. Like I've been doing in pop-ups and dinners for years. And I wanted to highlight that, like we even do some, a little grill basket. We do some butter beans and, I par cook them and then finish them off and char them and then whatever. And then on the other shoulder, obviously, is the smokehouse, where it's sausage, sock sausage, the old breakfast sausage and whole bellies for bacon and country hams and the whole process of the country ham. And then I guess the only thing that's traditional about this book is that, like we were talking about, that I didn't go like appetizers, main, entrees or whatever, is the dessert section. And when we got to the dessert section, I basically almost for all intents and purposes bowed off the stage, handed the baton off to my mom.
Oh, that's
mom basically kind of has kind of a book within a book. It's all of our families. It's got nothing to do with barbecue and grilling, none of that. It's I have a recipe for charred peaches in there I love, and my buddy Tandy's watermelon with chili oil and mint and Maldine salt. But outside of that, it's all my family's cakes and pies and stuff that I'll just let mom handle that. And so
Oh, I can't wait to get to that part.
That's a long-winded. That's
How
the
nice. No, but how nice is that too? That to celebrate her and to have her have a chance to have an opportunity to be in your book. That's special, really special.
oh, it's very special. I mean, she's my mom, and
Yeah, exactly.
she's wildly talented. I think the reason that I even had interest in cooking, which I won't get into here, but watching my dad and my grandfathers fire up a grill, refusing to never buy a gas grill, um, and having an old Weber grill, and me asking him, like, my buddy Bill Long, Bill's got his dad's got a gas grill, and my dad literally one day, he was a nice, meek man. He was like, "We don't do it that way. We do it this way," and that stuck with me. So
Yeah,
between
no.
that kind of like traditionalist, like this is how we do this. We change our oil this way. We shave this way. We light our fires to our grills this way. Over here, the women in my family, my grandmothers, my aunt Kathy, and my mom were legendary, especially bakers, legendary cooks around Northeast Mississippi. So being in and around a kitchen, I was all my life, and so that can't not rub off on you. And it just happens to be that I found my way into barbecue when I went to Freed Hardeman and found Whole Hog.
Yeah. Well, and it also seems like what you're doing is, and a lot of people get books and they'll kind of skim through them, and then you see them on their shelf, or they'll see them like stacked up. But it sounds like you're creating like a toolkit. Like it's a tool that people can use. It's a manual. It's something that I I, I I'm so excited to actually get my hands on it, because I've just seen a copy of it digitally, and it looks gorgeous too. Who took the photos for?
Oh, Andy Lee, he's top three best photographers in my opinion out there. He's actually, that's just not my opinion either, but I mean, he's becoming widely regarded as one of the top cookbook photographers there are. He's out of Atlanta, but Andy is unbelievably passionate. The reason this book took so long also is because it wasn't a recipe as a procedure book, means that the book was picture heavy.
Mm-hmm.
So usually, when you write a book, like they say, okay, 9 months from now, deliver us 120 recipes or 140 recipes. And then they take the recipes and give them to a photographer who the writer or the creator actually most time never meets. And the publisher will say, shoot these 30 recipes out of the 120, right? And then they send those 30 in, and the publisher puts them in the book.
Yeah.
But because this is a procedure book, I made it known quick that I had to have all my fingerprints on the pictures. So Andy jumped in and he took over 5,000 pictures. And
Insane.
I mean, it's literally 20 times more than what you would take. And it was because we were trying to get so much of the procedural pictures in, not so much just step by step by step by step, but at least to give you, the reader, know with all this dialogue over here, like here's where we at pictorially. And he is absolutely gifted, man. I mean, he got it, but he was into it with his heart. And I can't tell you how much.
That's important.
Yeah, I mean, I have so many buddies who've written cookbooks, man. And a lot of them, like I said, have never met their photographer. And there's a synergy with that. Like there's a play, much like a musician and a producer. Like it'd be like producing an album or singing an album. You don't even meet your producer.
Yeah, that would just be.
I don't understand how people do that, but they do. But this book is 300, I don't know, 20 pages or 10 or 20 pages, but it only has 60 recipes in it.
Yeah, I noticed that.
If you take out the front end of like kind of the vegetable stuff I did, I mean, we're down to 35. I'm proud of the book. I still feel a little bit like there may be some spots in it that, like, I'm afraid to kind of look through it because I'm afraid I'm gonna see something I forgot.
But that's life. That's how things go. Like it's probably, you're gonna feel that way just with any kind of project that you work on. At the end, there's always that one little thing or two little things that you forgot. How do you feel though right now? Do you feel good that it's going out into the world? Is that like, what is that feeling like for you?
Oh man, I feel very good. I feel great that it's going out in the world. I'm proud. I'm proud to be somebody that was asked to do a book, and I have a book out there. I mean, when people past couple of weeks, the term author has been applied to me, and it's like, I'm not really an author, man, but an author. Like,
yeah.
but it feels good it's going out, but I will tell you, I'm glad it's over.
Yeah.
I will say, I think that has offset some of my like excitement that a book is going out, on top of the fact that I'm 49 and have these restaurants and family. I'm just, nothing really gets me too high anymore. Like,
Yeah,
like,
it's you felt it. It's
but
probably better for your mindset to stay.
yeah, it is. It is. I'm very excited, very proud it's going out, but man, I can't tell you what, uh, the freeing of bandwidth for me that it was over. I mean, my whole company, everybody from my COO down, they're just like, whoa, this is 180 degrees, Pat. You are like back in our Cheerios every day. And I'm like, yes, I am.
It's
Talk about
nice to see you. Where you've been
Let's talk about management schedules, and let's talk about cleaning smokers and pits
oh
out. And let's
shit,
get down
he's
in the
back.
nitty-gritty. So, oh yeah.
And doing it in the middle of COVID and doing it during this, like I'm sure there's a lot of either Skype or Zoom or so many emails. There's probably so much stuff. Like
actually, man, most of the book was, especially the pictures, was shot right before COVID hit.
okay,
We had
good.
the meat of the book done before COVID hit.
Oh,
So
okay,
there was a bit of cleanup, but the reason COVID delayed the release.
Gotcha.
This book was supposed to come out 2 years ago.
Okay.
Then it was last year, and so it just really had an influence really on delaying the release.
And you wanted
Last
to
year,
get
we spent a lot of time cleaning it up, like final edits and all that.
yeah.
But the meat of it was already done.
And you're getting it out 2 days before St. Patrick's Day, right? That's like the big. I'm joking. I'm just being a jackass because I know that was you wanted a Father's Day thing. No, but this is. I'm excited for you. And when, to be honest, when I didn't even know that you had, I wasn't aware because we had talked and you didn't mention it. And so and then when I heard you had a book, I'm like, oh, this is very intriguing because I knew that if you did it, it would be something specific and to you. And this feels like this is you coming through the book. Obviously it's your voice and it's something this feels very true to you.
I wrote it all. I mean, everything in there is me. It just was Nick was the one typing it and putting it together.
Exactly. Yeah.
And cleaning it up, which is, by the way, a massive job.
Oh,
cleaning up, especially the first vomit of information, so to speak, where it just is all out. I mean, it's a huge job for a writer like Nick to have to take all that, decipher it, clean it up.
Oh yeah.
So, I didn't leave anything to another writer. Like, I don't know how we're going to do these green beans. You just put a recipe in there.
No, of course not. That's not you.
But yeah, man, it was, it is very specific to your point. And, much like the reason there's no beef in there is I'm very proud of, I think any of us that cook barbecue would sit here and tell you that, like, I don't know if where mine would be in consideration of whatever, but when I want to cook a brisket, I'm proud of our brisket. But it's not what I do. It's not what we came up doing, and I just wanted to stay true to what one Martin's Barbecue and Pat Martin was, but even going back to Harold Thomas, I mean, at Thomas and Webb, that's where I learned he didn't have brisket there. And
yeah,
I didn't put brisket on the menu till the night before I literally opened Martin's Barbecue, and it's because I got scared.
Really? You never told me that.
Yeah, Bo, my only employee at the time, was like, man, we're in Nashville and we got all these Texas transients. If you don't cook the brisket, they're not going to come. It scared me. I was like, well, shit, they're not going to freaking come eat. I literally went to Sam's and I was like, do y'all have a brisket? Yeah. He brings it out and I look at it and I size it up. This is 06. I size up. I was like, it's about the size of a shoulder, a little bit smaller. And so I went on and, that was it. But,
so you had some brisket sandwiches on the menu? Is that?
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much. They weren't good. It wasn't probably until about 8 or 9 years ago. I was like, all right, I looked at brisket the way I looked at chicken tenders. Like, it was for the people who, it was, kind of like kids are, like, they're not going to come in and eat barbecue or anything. So you just give them chicken tenders and it's like, they're almost like a veto vote. And that's kind of the way I looked at brisket. And I didn't really start looking at it like seriously as like putting it out there as something I'm proud of until probably 7 or 8 years ago.
Yeah.
Even now, brisket's such a tricky thing. Arguably, sometimes it could be considered trickier than cooking hogs. But it's, I just kept it out. I just didn't see a need to put beef in the book.
Yeah, I'm really happy for you. This is killer. This is fun, and I'll spread this. I'll spread the word on this. I think this is something that a lot of people that listen to this and watch this and that I'm friends with are interested in whole hog. I think it's something that it's some people are scared of, and I think that maybe this is nice that it's not demystifying anything, but at least it kind of gets their head closer to maybe.
Yeah, and I tell you, Kevin, that's why like the open pit stuff is in there, because we get, take catering, for example. I mean, it's probably almost every day we get somebody call and go, hey, we want to get a whole hog for this party. It's like, my girl's like, okay, well, how big's your party? And I'm like, it's like 30 of us. And we're like, yeah, that makes 230 sandwiches. So let's steer you away from a whole hog.
Yeah, exactly.
And in this book, what I wanted to do is offer the knowledge, not just the experience, but the knowledge of real pit barbecue without you having to invest the money and really the time and frankly the risk of screwing it up your first time on a whole 200-pound block pit hog, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Or hog in the ground. So the open pit and the spit barbecue is where I'm very happy. One, because I don't know that I have a lot of cookbooks. Like I've turned into a collector and I don't even know it. I've probably got 700 or 800 books.
I don't know that many, but I have a lot.
I don't know anywhere where anybody's really addressed cooking open pit barbecue or cooking a hog on the ground or a spit. So I wanted to put those in there because I know them very well. But as I was writing them, I was like, this 35-pound pig for a day is perfect for people.
Mm-hmm.
And they can have fun and it's great.
Yeah.
And they can really hone their skills on them. You can cook on open pit, you can cook on anything because it's the hardest to regulate temp, right? But I really am glad that I covered those so it could give people other options than just diving off into
that's smart.
A 30-hour process from beginning to end, not completely cooked, but starting a fire 4 hours before you're going to put a hog on, baking the ground off, getting the air in the blocks hot so they're radiant back, and you're worn out, So I talk about all that too. Like, don't show up with your cowboy boots and all this stuff, man. Freaking Nikes, comfortable, that Yeti chair is the most comfortable folding chair. Go buy it. I don't care if it is $300, buy it. Because the next day when you get done cooking that hog, you are going to be if you don't do that the right way and hydrate, don't sit up all night playing whiskey or drinking whiskey and doing all that.
Yeah.
You're not going to enjoy the next day. Mm-hmm. So the open pit really is a nice meat in the middle.
What's funny is you're the very first person I ever saw do whole hog. And I think it was like Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives. I think it was like that. I don't hate to say it, but it's
you shouldn't hate to say it. Guys
has been amazing for restaurants.
Guy's done more for middle America restaurants than anybody, and he gets way too much crap. And it's a shame.
I celebrate him all the time. But
Tony Bourdain shot, he shot at my house and I loved him, but this whole like, okay, we're going to be the cool chef hipsters and be on this camp, and the Guy Fieri people, cheese bags, like it's guys.
And he's embraced his persona too, which is funny. I think that's great. And no, it's amazing too that what he's done for the Food Network and how he's helped so many small restaurants during COVID. He was so helpful, and he's part of Operation Barbecue Relief. Whenever there's stuff in the West Coast, he's always helping out. Yeah. I hate to say like it was the Food Network. I wish it was, what I meant was I wish I was there personally and saw it. It wasn't just on the Food Network that was an entree for a lot of people to be introduced to a lot of people, especially you. But I remember seeing that and I thought that is so different than something I've seen in Los Angeles, and it just seems so mystical. And this is killer. And the fact that I know you, and I can't wait to see you in person. But this is great. Is there anything else that people should know? March 15th is when they can pre-order it online anywhere.
Yeah, it's on Amazon and Barnes and Noble and all the websites. It's been on there since I don't know, maybe before late December, I guess.
Okay.
But yeah, it's on there. I hope folks will feel the need and desire to spend the $35 for the book. I'd like to think that people won't regret that. I do again think it's like you collect a lot of books too. I've got all these books, and there's probably 5 or 10 that I go back to again and again.
Yeah.
When I really want to deep dive off into Italian food, I'm picking up Cooking by Hand by Paul Bertoli. Black and white pictures, very few pictures, very unsexy book, but it's a freaking manual for Italian cooking. It's an absolute manual. And that's kind of what I wanted Life of Fire to be. It was like a real manual on the procedural aspect of old school pit barbecue.
That's awesome. Well, It seems like it, and I'll also once I get a copy of it, I'll try to do some sort of review of it. Not review, just did a celebration discussion about it. Like a review. I hate reviews for anything.
Kevin, I appreciate it. Thanks again for having me on your podcast again. You're a foundational stalwart on the podcast side for us in our world, and you have been for years, and it's always an honor to be on your show. So thank
Thank
you.
you. That means the world to me.
All right, buddy. Thank
All right,
you.
have a good one. Have a good week.
See you.